The sheriff, Tony Guy, he's the interview that I told you I was going to have here in the beautiful park, the gazebo in Beaver, our county seat. His office is right across the street at the courthouse. Look, one of the things that I've learned from my many friends in law enforcement, especially those professional negotiators, if they're trying to make you turn yourself in, the best way to do it, the safe way, is to simply turn yourself in. No matter what you're dealing with, even some unpaid parking tickets, and they're giving you an opportunity this week that we wanted to take time and tell you all about it. Safe Surrender Day, resolve outstanding Beaver County warrants. It's going to be happening this Tuesday, October 7th, at the beautiful Rochester BCTA station, which is on West Washington Street in Rochester. It's from 10 in the morning until 6. Now, if you have any information or you are concerned about whether or not you may have something outstanding, 724-378-9063, 724-378-9063, warrants at beavercountypa.gov. So why are you doing this, Sheriff?
Yeah, so the Sheriff's Office is in charge of the warrants for Beaver County, and we are swamped with warrants. And the vast majority of those warrants are people who have failed to appear for a court appearance, got off track with some payments they needed to make to either a magistrate's office or through the common pleas courts, or sometimes even through domestic relations, or juvenile services, adult probation. There's a lot of reasons that people fall behind. And once they get off track and that warrant's issued, now they're afraid. They're afraid to get stopped. They're afraid to encounter a police officer. They're afraid to make a phone call to see what's going on. This is an opportunity for people who are in those types of situations. Now, I'm not talking about a situation where maybe you got a homicide arrest warrant for you, a serious violation, a serious felony. We're gonna, you can still turn yourself in for these, but for the rest of everything else, we're gonna do everything we can to allow you to go home that day. We had one about a year ago. Everybody went home. They came in, they got back on track, and actually we call this Safe Surrender Day. It's really a back on track day. It's an opportunity for people to get themselves back on the system so they don't have to keep looking over their shoulders, wondering when there's going to be a police officer stopping them and arresting them on a warrant.
It's really a good deal for both sides is what he's trying to say. Now, I got some things I want to talk to you about. I have been obviously discussing many of these topics on the radio and in conversations with various people here on my social media platforms. The president has now basically said that, you boats bringing illegal drugs into the country, we're going to handle it, and they have handled it. Has nothing to do with you being a Republican or he being a Republican. I'm a Democrat. I don't know if you'll ever be able to win the war on drugs, but I commend him for at least trying to stop it. Something I said earlier today, Sheriff, from my home studio, we have lost generations of people because of drug problems. You, of course, former member of the state police, you know all about how that works undercover. So what are your thoughts about this war on drugs? And can we actually, if we can't beat it, at least slow it down a little bit?
Yeah, so, you mentioned how a generation, we've lost generations. I think over the last several years, just to overdose deaths in this country, it's been over 100,000 each year. And that's more than we lose in wars. World War II, the biggest war we were ever involved in, lost 400 and some thousand soldiers during World War II. You look at the last 4 years in the United States, we've lost that many to drug overdose deaths. And so this needs to be approached in a matter that it's a threat to the homeland, it's a threat to America. Those deaths that we're talking about, that's several hundred, that 100,000 a year, that's several 100,000. That doesn't even count the people that are in active addiction, are in recovery, have had problems with family and friends and relationships. And it's really hurt our country in a big way. And I applaud the president too for treating this as a real threat to America.
Here's the other thing that a lot of people don't realize, and I've seen it, I've covered stories. Good people who end up on the wrong side of things, opioid addiction or what have you, and then in many cases it leads to stronger stuff such as heroin, and obviously Narcan, people are being brought back from the dead. But a lot of good people turn to crime too once they get addicted, so that even adds more to the level as far as why law enforcement is necessary, but also why this crime rate is so up.
Yeah. Drug-related crimes have always been an issue. I worked undercover back in 92 through 95, so that was a long time ago. Crack cocaine was big back then. But a lot of the crimes that are committed, whether it's thefts, even thefts from your own family, burglaries, robberies, a lot of times these people are doing these crimes to pay for their drug addiction, and you know, these people end up in a set of circumstances. Oftentimes, through legally prescribed drugs,
right,
they end up addicted to these things. So it's tough to be too harsh with people in those kind of situations. But by the same token, once they cross the line, they start committing crimes. Then law enforcement has to deal with it. So drug-related crimes are still very high. It's got to be addressed.
Got to be addressed, and that's what they do every day. Before we kind of remind you why we're here, just talk about law enforcement in general and why I think the Sheriff's Department in any county is essential. It's that extra set of eyes. They're basically bringing these criminals to and from the courthouse every day, but they're there in case something happens, or maybe somebody of local law enforcement doesn't get a drop on something, because let's face it, they need to add numbers to law enforcement. So what about your message to law enforcement right now, and also the possibility of some new recruits thinking about getting involved in law enforcement?
So since, it's a great question. Since 2020, we have had a dearth, a real lack of people, especially young people, who look at law enforcement as a potential career. I've been in law enforcement since 1984. It's provided for myself and my family. It's created a great situation for our family. Put a roof over my head, food on the table. I take care of my family. Since 2020, we've seen a real dearth. I don't know how else to say it. A really lack of people wanting to get in the law enforcement field. I've even talked to people who have it written on their hearts that this is what they want to do, that they want to serve in uniform, that they want to be a public servant and help people from the law enforcement perspective. And they've been talked out of it by friends and family members because of the lack of respect that law enforcement gets these days. I think it's getting a little bit better.
I hope so.
But it's still a little bit difficult. So every police department out there is looking for good recruits, including the sheriff's office. So if you know somebody, what I always tell people, and I've had mothers and fathers come up to me and say, hey, my son, my daughter wants to get in law enforcement. I really don't want them to do that. And my response to them is, please do not try to talk them out of it, because if it is written on their heart, if it is something that they're called to do, they will resent the fact that somebody talked them out of doing it later in life when they've missed that opportunity.
What made you want to do this?
For me, Rob, it was a job. You know, 1979, 80, 81, the mills started going down. I was looking for work. I had an opportunity to apply to the Pennsylvania State Police, went through that application process, took the test, and I got it because it was a job at that time. Things were difficult. It wasn't until several years later, when I started doing some different things within the state police, that I realized that this was where I was meant to be. God put me in that place. I was cut out to do this work.
Well, we're very thankful you're our sheriff, and all the folks, including my dear friend Paul Radadovich, who work with his office. Talked to one of your former members of the Pennsylvania State Police, Johnny Ludwig, last night. He sends his regards. So it's all good in the neighborhood, but listen, this is the day that you can make it right in your neighborhood, and also give you some peace of mind and help these brave men and women in law enforcement get a meeting of the minds and get this thing done and get it behind you so you can start moving forward. So tell the folks what you're doing.
Yeah, again, Safe Surrender Day. It's at the bus station in Rochester, 200 West Washington Street, Tuesday, October 7th, between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. And if you're not sure, you think you might have a warrant, you can call 724-378-9063 or email warrants, WARRANTS, at beavercountypa.gov. They'll let you know what your status is. And again, take advantage of this opportunity to get back on track with whatever you got going on with the courts, and quit looking over your shoulder. We don't want to have to encounter you on the street. We'd rather you turn yourself in.
Yeah, reestablishing bail, establishing payment plans for fines and costs, rescheduling hearing dates, and here's the most important message: linkage with community resources that can help you in your life if you need it after the fact moving forward. The Honorable Sheriff Tony Guy, your Pratt Pack. Don't forget, back on the air in just a couple of hours, right after CBS Radio News at 5 a.m. on KDKA 100.1 FM, AM 1020.